Sir, where are you coming from?
The burial, my mother's burial.
Huh, okay, sure. You got ID?
I just buried her 30 minutes ago.
I didn't ask about your day. I asked for ID.
Proof? I'm her
Hands behind
son.
your back.
Officer Ryan Mitchell had no idea what he just walked into. In the next 72 hours, his badge would be gone. His freedom would be gone. His career would become a warning story told in every police school in America. The crying man in the black suit was not just some random person. He was James Thornton, a federal prosecutor with 22 years at the Department of Justice. His job, putting bad cops in prison for civil rights crimes. Thornton had sent 47 officers to federal prison. He won 94% of his cases. He knew exactly which laws Mitchell was breaking before the handcuffs even clicked. And the cemetery's security cameras, they caught every single second, from the first demand for ID to the moment James got shoved into a police car, all while his family watched in horror. Before I continue, let me ask you, have you ever been treated unfairly by someone in power? Drop your answer in the comments. But Officer Mitchell had no idea who he was putting in handcuffs. James Edward Thornton was 54 years old. He worked as a senior trial attorney at the Department of Justice. His focus was civil rights cases against police officers. James went to Howard University. He graduated at the top of his class. Then he went to Yale Law School. He was so good that he became an editor of the Law Review. He started his career as a public defender in Baltimore. He spent 6 years fighting for people who could not afford lawyers. Then the federal government asked him to join them. For 22 years, James worked in the Civil Rights Division. He took on cops who broke the law. He won 47 cases. He sent 47 officers to federal prison. His win rate was 94%. That was the highest in his whole department. He even spoke to Congress about police reform. The FBI used his words in their training guides. Now here is the important part. James was an only child. His mother Dorothy raised him mostly alone. She worked as a nurse for 42 years. She passed away after fighting cancer for 3 years. James took care of her in her final months. On this October morning, James was not a federal prosecutor. He was just a son saying goodbye to his mother. Officer Ryan Mitchell had a pattern, and his department knew about it. Mitchell was 34 years old. He had been a patrol officer for 8 years. He worked in a rich, mostly white area. That area included Grace Memorial Cemetery. Over those 8 years, people filed 14 formal complaints against him. 11 of those complaints came from Black or Latino people. 9 complaints were about stops where Mitchell had no real reason to stop someone. He just thought they looked suspicious. 4 complaints went to Internal Affairs. That is the department that looks into bad cops. All 4 times, they said there was not enough proof. Case closed. Here is something strange. 6 of those 14 incidents had no body camera footage. Mitchell said his camera was not working every single time. Let me tell you about some of his past stops. In 2021, he stopped a black real estate agent who was showing houses. He held the man for 45 minutes. No charges. The complaint went nowhere. In 2023, he stopped a Latino landscaping crew at a country club. He called for backup. The crew had all their work papers. Mitchell got a warning, no real punishment. In 2024, he stopped a black jogger on a residential street. The jogger was a heart doctor who lived on that street. The complaint, not enough evidence. The pattern was clear, but nobody stopped him. Type accountability in the comments if you think that is wrong. But on October 14th, Mitchell picked the wrong man at the worst possible moment. It was Saturday, October 14th. The time was 11:47 in the morning. Grace Memorial Cemetery had been there since 1892. Old trees lined the paths. Stone monuments stood in neat rows. Rich families had been buried there for over 100 years. It was a quiet, peaceful place. The sky was gray that day. Leaves were falling. The only sounds were distant cars and birds. At 10:30 that morning, Dorothy Mee Thornton was laid to rest. She was 78 years old. 62 people came to say goodbye, family members, church friends, nurses she had worked with for decades. James spoke last at the service. He talked about her hands, how they held him when he was scared as a child, how they cared for thousands of patients over 42 years, how they grew still in his hands on her final night. The burial ended at 11:15. The family started walking to their cars. But James stayed behind. He told his sister he needed a moment alone. He stood at the grave for 20 more minutes. Tears ran down his face. He held her funeral program in his hands. The cemetery groundskeeper, Marcus Webb, watched from a distance. He had worked there for 30 years. He had seen many people grieve. 200 yards away, Officer Mitchell sat in his patrol car, watching. If stories like this matter to you, hit that subscribe button now. At 11:47, Mitchell got out of his car. He walked toward James. James did not notice. He was still looking at his mother's grave. Sir, I need you to step away from the grave," Mitchell said. James looked up. He wiped tears from his eyes. "I'm sorry, what?" "I said step away. What are you doing here?" "This is my mother's grave. I just buried her." "You have ID." "I'm at a funeral. I don't have my wallet." "Everyone has ID. Let me see it." James reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out his driver's license. He had it for the drive to the cemetery. Mitchell looked at it. "This doesn't prove you're supposed to be here." "I'm her son. The funeral ended 30 minutes ago." "A lot of theft happens in cemeteries. Flowers, valuables." "I'm not stealing anything. I'm grieving." "I need proof you attended the service." "Proof? There are 60 people who just saw me speak at her funeral." "I don't see 60 people. I see you." 10 minutes had passed since Mitchell first approached. James stayed calm. He spoke quietly. "Officer, I really don't want any trouble. I just want to say goodbye to my mother." "Then show me documentation, funeral program, something." James held up the funeral program. His mother's photo was on the front. Mitchell looked at it for 1 second. Anyone could have picked that up. James's voice broke. "That's her face. That's my mother's face." "Sir, I'm going to need you to come with me." "Come with you for what?" "Loitering, trespassing. You're making this difficult." Then James's family came back. His sister Patricia and nephew Malik saw what was happening. "What's going on, James?" "Officer, what are you doing?" Patricia asked. "Ma'am, step back. This doesn't concern you." "That's my brother. We just buried our mother." Mitchell grabbed James's arm. James did not resist. Mitchell pushed him against the patrol car. He put handcuffs on him. Malik pulled out his phone. He started recording. The groundskeeper Marcus walked over. "Officer, I can vouch for him. He was at the funeral. I saw the whole service." "Sir, back away, or you'll be next." What Officer Mitchell did not know was that the man he was handcuffing had sent 47 cops to federal prison for doing exactly what Mitchell was doing right now. Let me know in the comments what you think should happen to this officer. Mitchell put James in the back of the police car. James did not fight. He did not argue. He just sat there in his funeral suit. Patricia and Malik followed in their car. Other family members did too, a line of funeral cars following a police car. Mitchell called it in on his radio. One male, possible trespassing, uncooperative. But James had not been uncooperative. He had answered every question. He had shown his ID. He had shown the funeral program, all while crying at his mother's grave. At the police station, officers processed James for loitering in a public cemetery. They took his fingerprints. They took his photo. They put him in a holding cell. He was still wearing his black funeral suit. He still had his mother's funeral program in his pocket. Mitchell wrote his report. It said James was a suspicious male in the cemetery. It said James could not prove why he was there. It said James became argumentative when asked for ID. Every single word was a lie. Now here is where everything changed. The desk sergeant was a woman named Patricia Holloway. She ran James's name through the computer. She stopped. She read it again. Her face went pale. She walked over to Mitchell. "Ryan, do you know who you just brought in?" "Some guy loitering at the cemetery." "Why?" "James Thornton. He's a federal prosecutor, DOJ Civil Rights Division." Mitchell stared at her. "What?" "He puts cops in prison. He handles police misconduct cases. He sent dozens of officers to federal prison." 20 minutes had passed since the arrest. Mitchell's face lost all its color. "He was uncooperative," Mitchell said. "He wouldn't show proof." "Proof of what?" "Being at his mother's funeral." The evidence was already piling up. Malik had recorded 8 minutes of video. It showed everything. The cemetery had security cameras too. Officers pulled that footage within the hour. The groundskeeper Marcus gave his statement. He told them James had been at the funeral. He had watched the whole service. He had seen James speak at the burial. 5 family members were ready to give statements too. The station captain arrived. His name was Harold Freeman. He had been a cop for 28 years. He watched the footage, then he watched it again. He turned to Mitchell. "Badge, gun now." "Captain, I can explain. You arrested a man at his mother's grave, a federal prosecutor, on camera. There is no explanation." Mitchell handed over his badge. He handed over his gun. Officers released James from the holding cell. Captain Freeman apologized personally. James looked at him. His eyes were red from crying, but his voice was steady. "I don't want your apology, Captain. I want your body camera footage. I want your incident reports. And I want Officer M. Itchell's complete file, every complaint, every cleared case." The room went silent. Here is what made this moment so powerful. James had spent 22 years building cases against bad cops. He knew exactly what evidence he needed. He knew exactly what questions to ask. By now, Mitchell was starting to understand. This was not going to end with a suspension. This was going to end with a prison cell. Type "justice" in the comments if you think Mitchell deserved what came next. The investigation moved fast. Within 48 hours, Mitchell was on unpaid leave. Internal Affairs opened a case. The FBI Civil Rights Division got a call. Here is an important detail. James worked for the FBI Civil Rights Division, so he could not handle his own case. That would not be fair. His colleague took over instead. Officers gathered all the evidence. They had Malik's video, 8 minutes long. It showed James calm the whole time. It showed Mitchell being aggressive. They had the cemetery footage. It showed James standing peacefully at the grave for 20 minutes. He was not bothering anyone. He was not stealing anything. He was just grieving. They had audio from Mitchell's body camera. At one point, Mitchell said, "I don't care who you are." He said that to a man crying at his mother's grave. They had the groundskeeper's statement. Marcus told them he had worked at that cemetery for 30 years. He had never seen an officer treat a mourner that way. Then investigators looked at Mitchell's file. What they found was disturbing but not surprising. 14 complaints in 8 years, 11 involving Black or Latino people, 9 stops with no real reason, 4 internal affairs cases, all cleared for not enough evidence. The pattern was obvious. Someone should have stopped Mitchell years ago. Nobody did. Federal charges came next. The main charge was called deprivation of rights under color of law. That is a fancy way of saying Mitchell used his badge to take away someone's rights. He also faced charges for false arrest, for lying on his police report, for threatening the groundskeeper who tried to help. 6 days after the arrest, Mitchell got his official letter. He was fired. The reasons listed were conduct unbecoming an officer, violation of civil rights, lying on official reports. But losing his job was just the start. If you believe cops should face real consequences for breaking the law, hit subscribe now. The federal government was about to show Ryan Mitchell what accountability really looks like. The video spread like wildfire. Malik posted his recording on social media at 4:30 Saturday afternoon. By 6 that evening, 50,000 people had watched it. By midnight, 2.1 million views. By Sunday morning, it was the #1 trending topic in America. People used hashtags like Justice for James, arrested while grieving, end racial profiling. Local news ran the story Saturday night. By Sunday, CNN picked it up. MSNBC covered it. Even Fox News talked about it. The New York Times headline read, "Federal prosecutor arrested at mother's funeral in cemetery stop." The Washington Post wrote, "He prosecuted police misconduct, then it happened to him." People left thousands of comments. One said, "He spent his career fighting this, then he lived it." Another said, "Imagine being so racist you arrest a man at his mother's grave." A third wrote, "If this happens to a federal prosecutor, what happens to the rest of us?" That last comment hit hard because it asked the real question. The police department released a statement. They said they did not support Mitchell's actions. They said he had been fired. They said they were working with federal investigators. The police union tried to defend Mitchell at first, but after the video went viral, they backed away. They said they could not defend something so clearly wrong. Through all of this, James stayed quiet. He did not do interviews. He did not post on social media. He let the evidence speak for itself. That is what 22 years of experience taught him. Build your case, gather your proof, let the facts do the talking. This story was shared millions of times. Share this video if you think more people need to see it. Let me know in the comments how the video made you feel. 3 weeks after the arrest, a grand jury handed down charges. The federal government was taking this case seriously. Mitchell faced 4 counts. The first was deprivation of rights under color of law. This is a federal crime under Section 242. It means using your badge to violate someone's constitutional rights. The second count was false arrest. The third was for lying on his police report. The fourth was for threatening the groundskeeper who tried to speak up. The trial lasted 2 weeks. The video was the center of everything. Jurors watched it multiple times. They saw James calm and crying. They saw Mitchell aggressive and dismissive. Prosecutors also showed Mitchell's history: 14 complaints, 11 involving minorities, a clear pattern that went back years. Experts explained how racial profiling works. They showed how Mitchell's stops fit the pattern perfectly. Mitchell's lawyers tried to argue he was just following procedure. The jury did not buy it. The verdict came back, guilty on all 4 counts. Now here is the part everyone wants to know. How much time did he get? The judge spoke before giving the sentence. She said Mitchell saw a black man in a place he decided that man did not belong. She said Mitchell acted on prejudice, not evidence. She said Mitchell humiliated a grieving son at his mother's grave. She said the court would not tolerate officers who use their badge as a weapon. The sentence, 48 years in federal prison. Let me say that again, 48 years. That is one of the longest sentences ever given to a police officer for civil rights violations. Mitchell cannot even ask for parole for the first 20 years. He will be 82 years old before he can get out. But that was not the only consequence. James filed a civil lawsuit too. He sued the city. He sued the department. He sued Mitchell personally. The lawsuit said the department ignored years of complaints. They failed to train their officers. They were deliberately careless about civil rights. The settlement, $13.5 million. That breaks down to $4.5 million in regular damages, $7 million in punishment damages, $2 million for a fund to change police policies. There were other consequences too. The chief of police had to resign. 3 supervisors got demoted for clearing Mitchell's past complaints. The federal government put the whole department under watch for 5 years. 3 days after the verdict, James held a press conference. He stood at the microphone in a simple dark suit. His voice was calm but heavy with emotion. "I've worked these cases for 22 years, he said. "I thought I understood what victims felt. I was wrong. When those handcuffs clicked, I wasn't a federal prosecutor. I was just another black man who didn't belong in someone's eyes." He paused. His voice got quieter. "My mother spent 42 years caring for people. She helped thousands of patients. She deserved a peaceful goodbye. Officer Mitchell stole that from me and from her." Then James talked about the bigger picture. "I've seen this pattern hundreds of times. The difference is that I had resources, I had connections, people listened to me. Most victims don't have that." What happens to the landscaper Mitchell stopped? The jogger, the real estate agent? What happens to people without cameras, without lawyers, without the ability to fight back? He told reporters what he wanted to see change: body cameras that are always on, outside review of all complaints against officers, rules that let juries see patterns of bad behavior. Then he gave his final statement. These words have been shared millions of times since. "My mother taught me that dignity isn't something you earn, it's something you're born with, and no badge should ever have the power to take it away." The room was silent when he finished. Some reporters were crying. This case showed us something important about America. 41% of black Americans say police have stopped them because of their race. Black drivers get pulled over more than white drivers in all 50 states. Black people are 5 times more likely than white people to say they have been stopped unfairly. James won because he had power and proof. Most people have neither. The system protected Mitchell for 8 years and 14 complaints. It only stopped when his victim could fight back. That is the real problem. So let me ask you, does it take a federal prosecutor being the victim for us to believe these stories? Does it take 14 complaints before one officer faces consequences? Does it take a mother's funeral being destroyed before we demand change? Because if we only act when the victim has power, if we only believe when there is video, if we only care when the story goes viral, then we have already decided who gets justice and who does not. Ryan Mitchell is going to prison for 48 years. He will be an old man before he gets out. But this is not really about one bad cop. It is about systems that protect bad cops. It is about complaints that go nowhere. It is about patterns that everyone sees but nobody stops. James Thornton got justice, but what about the landscaper, the jogger, the real estate agent? What about the millions of people who get stopped, questioned, and humiliated for simply existing? Comment below if you believe every police department should face outside review of complaints. If you think stories like this matter, hit that subscribe button right now. We are going to keep exposing these stories. We are going to keep demanding better. We are going to keep fighting for dignity and fairness for everyone. This is not just about Officer Mitchell or James Thornton. This is about all of us and the system we choose to accept or reject. See you in the next one.